that's the lesson that you take from this. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on someone.
When it comes down to it, it's a very difficult sport.
I enjoy the people that are here.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Welcome to Community Close-Up. I'm Joe Nelson. Today we hit the football field and find out what it's like to make the tough calls and enforce the rules. We go back more than a century to see what school was like before electricity and ballpoint pens. And we head to another classroom filled with kids sharing ideas to make music together. But first, a Coon Rapids man nearing the end of his life is finding peace and joy during a difficult time. Music therapy sessions are offering Leland Tate a chance to express himself and a distraction from the pain.
High school band, I played the tuba. We had a parade scheduled for a stormy day, and it was really a bad day for a storm. When we marched downtown and turned the corner, went right into the wind. The wind caught the bell on that horn. I went over backwards, and I took about 3 or 4 people with me.
From early on, Lead Tate of Coon Rapids had a song to sing. He played tuba in the band and found his voice in the choir.
He had a great leader, and it didn't make any difference to him whether you were a good singer or not. He'd take you on and teach you the basics.
He carried those tunes with him throughout life, sharing songs with his family and meeting friends along the way.
All the time we were singing. He would sing kid songs when we were young, and always hymns and church songs.
I hope I can keep going for a while, and I don't know. My voice isn't very good anymore.
At age 88, Lee and his loved ones know his time is short.
He has leukemia, and he's stopped any aggressive treatment.
Now in hospice care, Lee spends his afternoons with Kim Best, who shares her talents and offers an ear.
I came in and I introduced myself, and then very quickly I sang a song and he just jumped in. And he's like, oh, I can't sing anymore, but he still can.
I ring good night, I ring good night.
I remember the first couple times I went to see him, he didn't really open up with me a lot. Over a few months of working with him, now he'll tell me stories and express his feelings, and he'll ask for certain songs. And so now he'll open up if I ask. I've got peace like a river, I've got peace like a river.
As a music therapist with Mary T. Inc., Kim sings and strums for those approaching their final days.
In hospice, I will meet a patient and I'll assess them for what goals do I want to reach with this person. You know, do they have physical needs? Are they in pain? Do they have emotional or spiritual needs that they have to express? Or even do they have social needs? Are they in their room and not socializing with anyone? And so I will use music in a clinical and therapeutic way to reach those goals, to help decrease their pain or to help express their emotions through song or through, talking with them and relating it to the song. So there's a lot of different techniques that we use. A big part of hospice care is meeting people where they're at and taking them through the dying process. And so it's not always going to be happy, it's not always going to be fun, but it is still important to meet those emotions.
Kim says it hasn't been easy losing patients, but she sees the rewards every day.
I can never meet someone and not form a relationship with them if I'm working with them. It is difficult working with people who are dying, but I think it's amazing to meet them at this stage of life and show them that they still have life to live.
Some days are good, some days not. When this life is o'er, I'll fly away.
The Navy veteran says some of the songs he and Kim sing make him think about his wife Margaret, who died about 10 years ago.
Where will you fly away to?
I'm going to go to heaven.
I'm going to go to heaven. Yeah.
And when I get there, Margaret's going to be waiting for me.
She's going to be waiting for you.
She'll be there.
We just bought. They were married for 47 years. a bit hard not to have her.
Gloria is my daughter. Without her, I don't know what I could do now. It's been, what, 10 years ago? Let me call you sweetheart.
Lee's strong faith is also reflected in song.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. That is very important. You can get off base and you've got to have something you come back to. I've had these songs now for quite a long time, and I can pick them up and sing them. It's more fun to have somebody else to sing with me, but for the young people just coming out of school, I would recommend that they get into some kind of a musical program, whether it's a small choir or some are good enough so they can go professional. Some aren't, I'm not. But stay with it.
Staff at Lee's home, Cherrywood Advanced Living in Andover, have noticed how patients find recovery in rhythm and healing in harmony.
It gives them something else to focus on besides their pain, and it helps.
This is a great bunch of people here. I can call on any one of them, and they'll be with me in just a matter of minutes.
Using music as the medium can really open up a different side of a person. And because it's something fun, people don't realize that, oh, this, I'm actually doing therapy right now. So it's easy for him to express those things because he's having a good time and he's relating his emotions to the lyrics in the song.
And I want to see Dad have, enjoyment and good times, all the time. We try to make life good and as best we can.
I'll fly away.
Before the music therapy session, Leland said he had pain in his knee. After the session, he said that pain was cut in half. Still to come, how kids are finding music and making their own here in Anoka County. Stay with us.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Before they went back to school, kids with songs stuck in their heads learned how to get them out. A dozen youngsters got in tune with their own creativity, making memories and melodies.
I was a kid who loved music early on, just like these kids. And I wasn't necessarily a good band student or choir student, but I loved the idea of making music with my friends.
At a young age, James Hirsch found a way to express himself with amplifiers, strings, and a microphone.
And we just put together a band ourselves and just made up our songs and made up our arrangements of other people's songs. And so I just loved it right away. And the way it allowed me to interact with people, as opposed to when I didn't have a guitar, which sometimes was hard for me. The guitar allowed me all of a sudden to be interactive, to be a little more assertive, a little more confident, and gave me a voice. Very high. Yes. And do you remember there was one more thing? What was that, Ian?
As an adult, James was approached by his daughter's teacher, influencing him to share that experience with new generations of musicians.
I thought that maybe kids could make up their own songs if we just let them be creative, and it seemed to work right away. It led to some positive interaction between the kids, and so we thought, let's just keep doing this. So other teachers jumped in. We'll make words that will talk about what? What are we going to talk about?
His time spent teaching music began to crescendo.
And then I started doing entire schools, where I'd write 28, 29 songs with classrooms, and so it got kind of crazy, and I've been doing it ever since, and I probably do 12 or 13 schools a year now.
This summer, James continued his musical mission in places known more for silence than singing.
They allow me to make noise in a place that sometimes you're not supposed to make noise so much. It began to shake, it began to break. And I think that they value the idea that the kids come into the library with a purpose, with a mission, and they like the idea of expanding their vocabulary of words by writing songs. Maybe sometimes it even does lead to some literacy goals that they have. But more than anything, I think it's just the idea that the library is a place to discover things. And the kids come here with me to discover themselves.
Will I get tossed up to the sky?
Each new class starts with students' ideas.
I want to make up a song that reflects whoever the group is I'm with. I want it to be their identity. I want it to be their ideas. I want them to decide everything from tempo, key, feel, besides the words. But the story is always the most important thing for me. I always like a story, a narrative of some kind. And for kids, it could be, you know, aliens. It could be panda bears. Could be a unicorn. You know, it could be any number of things. But a lot of times, it's something that has a little piece of them in it, a little secret to who they are.
Did you ever wonder if a horse could write a song for a chicken while flying a kite?
For the kids, it's a unique chance to share those secrets, not in a whisper, but on paper and in tune.
Did you ever wonder?
I think my favorite part was writing the songs because, of course, it's really fun also singing them, but I think writing the songs just makes it really fun for the class.
I kind of like when they were talking about the flowers once. Like I made up that part.
It's one of many ways that you can tap into kids' sense of self, identity, as well as teamwork. It's not the only way, but it's a great way because music has got a particularly powerful connecting attribute. So I think that it's just good for kids to know inside they're creative and unique, but that they also can work together to create a group voice that says a story about all of them.
Some had sung their own words before.
I like writing songs and I like singing, so it was really fun.
Others discovered a new passion with a pencil.
Songs are very nice and, well, they bring some feelings up, like happiness, sadness. I was proud. Feel good, I really liked it.
I encourage them to write songs just as they walk home from school, to the beat of their steps, or the rhythm of something they hear in the world. And let that lead them into a story that they could create.
While not all of James' students over the years have kept writing, many still remember their rhymes and rhythms.
They keep in touch. Sometimes they email me. I had a young man email me from college. He was on the bus to school up at UMD and taking a bus to school, and he was laughing to himself, he said, because he was singing the song we made up in kindergarten.
Grandma's voice say, I'm so glad you survived.
Through the past 18 years, James has found his forte.
I found that I need to engage them constantly. Like dead air is not good. So I just keep them flowing and connected with me, and that's the most important thing. Just keep connected.
And the kids aren't the only ones learning in class.
Their songs always surprise me. Their ideas, the way they take a phrase and turn it a little bit from what I would think.
There's a car parked in my driveway, plain as it could be.
I have taken kids' ideas and turned them into songs of my own, yes. I love they give me ideas and perspectives I wouldn't have had.
Following the lyrical lessons, students say they're leaving with more than a CD.
If you've never come to this class, it's really fun and you get to meet someone who can help you like learn how to be a better songwriter or a better singer, and he just like shows you what to do, and you can meet people, and there's even candy involved. So very fun.
Favorite part is like all the girls I made one friend in the class. They're fun always.
I didn't know any of them before, but I had made friends with some of them like during the class.
I think it's, again, the power of music, the way music changes us for the better.
Did you ever wonder if a horse could write a song for a chicken while flying a kite?
James also teaches at schools and churches throughout the year. For more information on performances and classes, go to his website at reachwithme.com. Up next, we hit the gridiron to hear from men who go to dozens of games every year, but don't care who wins. We'll be right back.
I've got a job to do today.
I've got a job to do today.
Have a good first day at work, Mom.
Your donations to Goodwill fund job training programs right in your community.
Feels good to start fresh, right?
Sure does. And like that, you're a job creator.
The high school football season kicked off early this year, but some prepared for their first game not with a playbook, but a rule book. We found out what it's like to be a part of the game wearing stripes and a whistle. Before classes start, students from Blaine and Coon Rapids high schools already show school spirit.
Early on, you're really trying to focus on fundamentals of the game. Give yourself the best chance to be competitive on a Friday night.
Second guess your preparedness a little bit. Do we cover all our bases, cross all our T's, dot all our I's? Do we have our depth chart set?
With both teams looking for their first win of the year, a third team has a different objective.
Perfect game would be one where, I mean, it's you know, what everybody talks about, where you stay out of the play, you call what needs to be called. You know, the proverbial, the coaches don't know you're there, the fans don't know you're there.
Their uniforms don't include shoulder pads or helmets, but the game couldn't be played without them. Rolf Erickson remembers what it was like wearing a chin strap and cleats for St. Louis Park High School and then at Gustavus Adolphus College.
I've always liked competitive sports, contact sports, getting in there, messing it up. And so now as an official, my job is to make sure it doesn't get too messed up.
After he took off his Gusties jersey for the final time, Rolf didn't want to leave the gridiron for good.
I saw an advertisement at the school. They're looking for Little League baseball umpires at age 15. I said, I'll give that a try. And then one thing led to another. Then I'm starting to do youth hockey, and then I did high school and college hockey. And then I started doing high school and college football.
Over the past 3 decades, the game has changed.
There's been a major emphasis on making sure that the players lower their strike zone so that they're not hitting their opponent above the shoulders. That's been the biggest thing over the last few years.
But Rolf's role stays the same.
Player safety is number one. Number two would then be just to make sure that both sides get an even shake, that there's one team's not getting an advantage over the other team.
With fans on their side, players and coaches feel the glory of winning. Officials see no such celebration for a job well done.
We're going to make a call, and of course one team's not going to like it, the other team thinks it's the greatest call ever. Over time you get to know that you're not going to please all the people all the time.
But the excitement remains.
As you get to be a veteran official, when you get to crunch time, you want those big plays coming your way. Come on, bring it here, and let's see what happens, and we'll get it right.
Although it's not always friendly banter, these coaches and officials say they try to reach a common understanding in an effort of fairness.
So if something happens I disagree with, I'll make a comment quick, more so to the side ref on my side, but for the most part, it's a long game, and we got to just carry on and move on to the next play.
If they're on par, on task, they make sharp decisions, authoritative decisions where they're not second guessing themselves. I think the kids really respect that. And if they're always talking to the kids about easy off the pile or hey 34, you got to watch that was a little late, I think that's where Rolf and his crew is really good.
I think that I'm easy to talk to. They may not always like the answer they hear from me, but you know, back in the day I might have been a little more aggressive. Over time I've settled down a little bit. You know, understand that I can get further with them by talking to them rather than shouting, and that goes a long way.
Obviously we'll disagree with some of those calls, but at least they are on point and they're going through due process of letting us know what they thought.
He does a really good job explaining about how his crew works and how they work together as a team. And
after the fumble recovery, while the ball was dead, person was fouled on the defense, 15 yards from the dead ball spot.
He says outright that if they make mistakes, that you know, they're human beings as well, so just ask any questions we have, but they're going to keep the pace of the game going.
They're a part of the game they love, but after seeing amazing plays, referees learn to recognize but not react.
Sometimes, you know, it just doesn't faze us. We've seen so many of them, even at this level, that you've seen one, you've seen a lot of them. Every once in a while, one really amazes you, but obviously you can't show it outward. We might talk about it afterward. Did you see the catch this kid made? It's not that we don't recognize it, we just can't act like fans. A great referee, first I think you have to have an understanding of the game. I'm not saying you had to have played football, but it certainly helps to have played.
False start, offense, 5-yard penalty, replay the try.
Number two, you got to be dedicated and understand. I said earlier that it's not a full-time job, but it's pretty close. You can't just walk out there for a 7 o'clock kickoff at 6:30 without any prior preparation. And above all, you have to understand the rule book. I mean, if you don't understand the rule book, you're dead.
After 30 years in pinstripes, Rolf says he's not close to throwing his last flag.
False start, offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
I'm still fairly able to get around the field, and even though the kids are considerably younger, I can still keep up with most of them. So I don't know, 6, 8, who knows, 6, 8, 10 years, who knows. If it got to the point where I couldn't get up and down the field, then that would be an indication that I need to leave. And then once the game became no longer fun, I'm not to that point yet, but if it got to be a grind and no longer fun, one of those two things would cause me to leave the field.
Living in Plymouth, Rolf has a wife and 2 daughters and a day job doing loan and lease resolutions for Wells Fargo. But from August through November, his part-time job takes full-time preparation.
First, there's a review of the previous week's game, the Friday night game, Saturday game. What unusual plays happened that I need to bone up on the rule. I always do what ifs. You know, we had this happen, but what happens if it happened like this? Then what will we do? Get into the rule book, read maybe a section of the rule book every night. There's a case book that you can read that has more detail, interpretations for the rules that we read. Then we get together as a crew prior to the game and review some of the stuff that happened the week before that we either did well or need to improve upon. So there's something going on every day of the week.
If refs are prepared and they know the style of the team's play and they've maybe watched a little film and they know what they're getting themselves into, what type of game, then that really helps the outcome.
Rolf credits his colleagues for ensuring the right call is made.
We all get together. If someone saw something different, they have an obligation to step up and give you information. Did you see this? Did you not see that? And then it's up to the calling official to decide whether or not he wants to stay with a call.
And when the pressure's off, his friends with whistles make each game enjoyable by sharing laughs on and off the field every Friday night.
This is my 30th season in high school football, and for the most of those years I've been with the same group of guys, so it's year in and year out working with the same guys, so it's the camaraderie of the crew that keeps me coming.
When the clock hits 0, Rolf and all refs wear a different hat.
Oh yeah, they'll let me know. You're not wearing the stripes tonight, yeah. I think my wife and my daughters say I'm sort of by the book, you know. They'll remind me this isn't a football game, you know. Rules are meant to be bent and all that kind of stuff. You can't treat us like you would a football coach or a football player, so I have to learn to keep the two separate.
While fans continue to show concern about his eyesight, Rolf offers these reminders.
Well, first off, I think it probably goes without saying, we walk into that game without any care whatsoever who wins by what score. We don't care. As I mentioned earlier, we just want to make sure that we ensure that both teams get an even shake and that we protect the players.
Face mask, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
We're not perfect. We make mistakes. Sometimes we don't have the best look at the play. We got 5 officials, there's 22 players on the field, and we don't get to see everything the way we should. We'll see things on the video that we never saw live, right? Sometimes the people in the stands have a better look. Sometimes the coach has a better look.
There's so many things throughout the course of a game that we're in control of, and we tell our players that, you know, what officials do, you're out of control of that.
We not love refs, but very much appreciate the work that they put in, and it's not worth the pay that they get, but without them we couldn't have football.
I just hope that they feel that we as officials gave them a fair shake and that they had fun playing. You know, I don't want them walking off the field thinking that somehow they got gypped out of a call here or there, and that we allowed the game to get out of control to the degree that it was no longer fun. Then we'd probably not have done a very good job that night.
Blaine took home the win that night with a score of 39-13. Coming up, we go back in time to find out what school was like in the late 1800s. Stay with us.
Mom, can I have $1? Yeah, it's right. I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No. What about your sister's room? It's not there either. The upstairs closet? The downstairs closet?
There are no more closets.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Thanks for watching Community Close-Up. With students returning to class this month, we go back more than 100 years to find out what school was like in the early 1900s. Although they may not have had to walk uphill both ways, students had much different lives and responsibilities. We leave you at the Anoka County Historical Society to find out how. I'm Joe Nelson. We'll see you next month. For many, the end of summer begins at the mall with back-to-school shopping. 9 decades ago, that tradition looked slightly different.
To buy your school clothes might mean in the 20s and 30s you went down to the feed store and you might buy your bag of chicken feed And your bag of chicken feed was printed in very pretty designs. This is the size of a bag of chicken feed, and then you could pick out 2 alike for girls because it takes 2 bags to make a dress, and that way your mom could take it home and dad uses the chicken feed to feed the chickens and you had fabric for your dress. So you started a little sooner. Kids probably didn't have the range of clothes that we do today.
Inside the classroom, parents and districts look closely at class sizes to evaluate a student's ability to get the teacher's attention. Anoka County Historical Society Program Manager Vicki Wendell says that wasn't always possible in the 1800s.
In a town school, a teacher would have 1 grade. We have a reference in about 1875 that talks about how this one young teacher, her classroom was very unruly and they were just really struggling. They couldn't read very well and they didn't know their recitations and things like that. And then at the end of the little report it noted that, well, perhaps some leniency should be granted to this teacher. It was her first time teaching. She was trying to deal with a class of 104 first graders. Can you imagine 104 first graders? Yeah, all by herself. There's no teacher's aides or anything. A town school could have a lot of kids in a classroom.
In recent years, iPads and smartboards have helped to engage students. Wendell says a simpler invention likely made an even bigger difference.
A ballpoint pen would have been a huge step forward over that inkwell and dipping it in that liquid ink. That would have made a tremendous revolution in how you were able to write.
For some, school ended much earlier than the completion of 12th grade.
A lot of it is based on family situations, because if you had money enough that you could feed everybody and keep everything going without having to send kids out to work, you probably did choose to give them a little more education. School was not mandated past 8th grade. It was almost a luxury in some families. You really wanted to get an education because it was believed that your education was going to get you ahead. That would get you to be a better person, a better job, a better life, whatever it was you were looking for. Education was seen as very important, but it was a privilege. It was done after the chores were done. So it's a little bit different approach than what we tend to think about today. If you were a farm kid and they needed you to help with the chores, maybe you only got to school 3 days a week. And that might make a difference in how fast you'd finish that book.
While the pain has gone away, memories of how teachers disciplined troublemakers remain, using rulers or paddles instead of detentions and suspensions.
Many people remember being smacked over the fingers with a ruler. Even I remember in District 11 when the gym teachers would have a big paddle, and if you misbehaved, they could swat you in the butt with the paddle. So yeah, that's changed dramatically from years past.
Wendell says she enjoys her role of educating kids and adults about the county's history.
We are a museum. We always are teaching. We are always working with our library. We're always working with our schools. We have a number of school programs to try to make history in particular more fun.
The museum offers real historical artifacts to schools to help 6th graders achieve their state history requirements.
This is the part that kids love. We actually send real artifacts out, and these are all from our hands-on collection, so they're meant to be handled and used. They are not part of the museum's permanent collection. They're expected to get worn out.
With all the advancements we've seen, Wendell says the goals and value of education remain the same.
Bottom line is education will get you further. If you are educated and you have a good, solid knowledge base behind you, you can get a lot further in the world than you can if you don't have that. And that education was available to all students, but not necessarily taken advantage of by all students, which kind of fits again today. We've kind of, as a society, kind of written history off as being dull and dry and boring. It isn't. It's all about people and how we've tried to master whatever problem it was we were facing. And that's fascinating. The stories of people in our past are amazing stories. And history can teach us a lot. There's the famous line about, well, those who don't remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Yeah, that's true. But it also can project a better future, because if we look back and say, okay, we tried this, 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 and this, let's try that because we haven't tried that before. Maybe that's the answer that'll make the future better. And education, be it in history or anything else, can always try to make the future better.